My dad, his family were from Oklahoma. Probably they came up here as slaves. I know it would have been his granddad that was a slave, so it would have been my great-grandfather, eh? I never did meet the man, he was dead, you know. But listening to a little bit of information, and for some reason, I guess they wanted to forget the past. They didn't want to talk about it, because they didn't talk about it, you know. But my mom would tell me a little, she said he was really a mean person. He hated white people. And you can understand why. If that man was a slave, you best believe he's going to hate him coming up here, eh? And my granddad, he owned the blacksmith shop in Athabasca. I was born in Athabasca, and I believe my parents moved to Edmonton in 1958. They moved over onto the north side, and I don't know if it's still there, but there used to be a packing company, and I think it might have been not Canada Packers, but there was a packing company on 66th Street. Was that Swift? Yeah. And there used to be a Sunday school called Shiloh Baptist, and it was right across the street, and that's where we used to go. And when my parents, and there was a few black people that moved here, and they moved into a building that was called the Latoski Building. And it was like, I guess they would have called it an apartment building at that time, but there were different families that lived there. And then my parents moved to the West End. And then we have been here ever since. Now, the West End was called Jasper Place. And the boundary for Jasper Place and Edmonton was 149th Street. And this was Jasper Place. And it was mud. There was mud and there was wood sidewalks. I remember that as a kid. Well, I'll tell you about the house that we lived in on 158th Street by Broadstock Swimming Pool. Like I said, Jasper Place was mud. Our street had wooden sidewalks. And I can remember the big ditch, the water was full there. I remember we had milk. It probably didn't last that long, but a horse and buggy, they brought that milk. Yeah. People used to have clotheslines. All the women had gardens. They did. I remember the house we lived in didn't have running water. The waterman would come there once a week and he'd fill that big water thing, the barrels. We had an outside toilet and there was a little room in the house. I guess that was a bathroom, and then there was a thing you go to the bathroom, but you could only pee in there because my brother would go and dump it in the morning. That was his job. But everybody had gardens. I can remember the David Dobbages, that was one of the neighbors. They had 9 kids. They were Ukrainian. All of us kids played with them, you know. All the women associated with each other. They had gardens. And these women all stayed at home. These women didn't work. They had their kids, and they all raised their kids, and they had gardens, and everybody was happy, you know. Yeah. So I remember that house. And then I think we moved to another place it was in the West End, just off Stony Plain Road. It's no longer there. I think there's a tire shop or something there now, but there was a house back there. That's where we lived, and I remember it was kind of a little shack. And then when we lived on 95th, I remember my brother, Richard, he was always out, and he had that old push lawnmower. He was always trying to keep the yard nice and neat, and my little brother would drag crap home, and yeah, so I remember that house. And then when my parents bought that house on 95th Avenue and 152nd Street, we thought we were rich. We thought that was a mansion, considering what we were moving from, you know, and because it was 3 bedrooms. That house that we lived on 156th Street had 2 bedrooms, and there's 8 of us. Yeah. So, yeah, it was, we thought we had died and gone to heaven. This was a mansion. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have memories of any of the other things in Jasper Place, the movie theaters?
Oh, yeah, it was right over there. Well, you know, where remember I said, oh, that's where you can get your taxes done, Happy Tax? Yeah. That used to be, they never knocked that building down, but that was a theater. There was a theater there. And us kids used to go to on Saturdays. 25 cents to get to the movies. 25 cents would get you a long ways. I think it was 10 cents to go into the movie, and then you got 15 cents to spend. And it was cheap. You could get lots of stuff for 15 cents.